I want to go through week 6 of this last high school football slate. I want to talk to you about what happened against the Lake Blue Streaks, because that game was a big Federal League matchup between Lake and Jackson. You were there, and I want to know what your take was of what happened to Jackson, because Lake ended up pulling out that victory.
What happened to Jackson is they ran into a buzzsaw defensively in Lake. Lake's defense was some of the best I saw all season. Probably, honestly, Mitch, I've seen the most impressive over the past few seasons. Jackson barely had over 100 yards of offense. Jackson's only score came on an interception pick six by Anthony Fuline, which was his third of the year. It cut the deficit at the time to 13-7. And it was going into the halftime locker room. You thought, okay, they have a shot. Jackson will maybe figure this out. I mean, this is a team that has already scored a number of points this season, 39 points week 2, 49 points last week against Perry. Sophomore quarterback Lucas Eckman looked like a sophomore. And that's not something that I say lightly because he's been tremendous so far, but the Lake defense was incredible. Swarming to the ball, 10 sacks on Jackson. That doesn't even include the hits they had on Eckerman. 10 whole sacks, numerous tackles for losses. Jackson just couldn't get anything going offensively, and Lake did just enough offensively to win the game because Jackson's defense, for the most part, Mitch, was still very strong. It took almost a semi-broken play from Noah Kaboski, the other Lake quarterback, to come in and throw a touchdown, and then Nate Baker, the running back just piled up yard after yard, taking hit after hit. And this isn't like I'm talking about a big bruising running back like Briante Dunn that we used to see back at Glen Oak. This is a running back that's elusive, that can run for speed. And he was a wideout last year. They've now made a running back, and he is a staple in this Blue Streak offense. And he was really able to help them come out on top 19-7 over Jackson and put them atop the Federal League heading into what is going to be a monumental week 7 matchup against the McKinley Bulldogs this week.
It's going to be exciting. I'm very impressed with what Lake was able to do to come out with this victory, and they're going to be taking on a Canton McKinley squad that still remains one of the top teams in the area. They just got they had a solid week this week.
Yeah, they did. And they had a back and forth game, Mitch, with the North Canton Hoover Vikings. McKinley ends up pulling it out 37-28. It was a game that we talked about. It was a game that most people watched here in Big Time Sports Ohio, but we talked about Hoover having the firepower potentially with quarterback Carson Derlin to stay in that game, and sure enough, they did. But Keaton Road, Nino Hill, and the rest of the McKinley Bulldogs did just enough to escape with a very tough Federal League road win here in week 6 to stay atop the Federal League standings. So now you have Lake and McKinley sitting atop the Federal League, unbeaten in Federal League play, and they are both going to square off this upcoming Friday at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. Last year was kind of the same thing. McKinley, though, went to Lake and defeated Lake. Lake's going to look to do the same thing and play spoiler at McKinley on their own home turf and try to really take control of the Federal League and control their own destiny. But this game this Friday is going to be very, very entertaining, I think.
Now we have those 2 matchups coming up this week, which we'll be talking about later on throughout the week. But let's talk about what happened on Friday against with Massillon, because this is such a fascinating development. Like I was preparing for my matchup in New Philadelphia between the Quakers and their week 6 opponent that we'll get to here in a bit. But what happened in Massillon, where the news breaks an hour before that DaOne Owens was not going to play in that game due to an issue involving his transfer application this past offseason from Copley. Now, the Tigers ended up beating Middletown anyway, pretty well off, but I was very confused by this whole thing. Why did it take 6 weeks for us to figure out an issue with his transfer? And has there been any further developments? Because I reached out to both Coach Moore and Massillon's athletic director, and they have yet to respond.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there's nothing yet. And the biggest question that a lot of people were asking, Mitch, not just Massillon fans or you and I in the media, but others across Stark County, why now? Why did it take till week 6 to find out that DaOne Owens is going to be suspended until they figure out this transfer application? It seems very odd that it took this long. Is the OHSAA this far behind on paperwork, or what raised the red flag? In terms of the game, it did not matter. Massillon won 41-7. Jalen Slaughter stepped right back into that starting quarterback role, which he expected to have this year, and then DaOne Owens transferred in, and he helped lead Massillon over another win over a team from Delaware. They already beat this team last year too at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium. But you have to wonder what happens. We haven't heard anything yet. At the same time, maybe we're not allowed to hear some things because it could be a legality thing. You're talking about someone's address, where he lives now. And this is also, a kid still. We're talking about a high school athlete. Uh, you don't want to have all that information out there just for anyone to be able to find and read. But the timing is the biggest question mark, and it doesn't make much sense. And we're going to have to wait and see. We still have not heard yet what's going to happen heading into week 7. Is Owens going to be back underneath center? Is he done for the season? And Mitch, there's also the question now is if he's found ineligible the rest of the season, does that mean that Massillon has to vacate wins in the games he's already played in? And that's an extreme case and possibility, but it's kind of fair questioning right now because this is all hit so fast and out of nowhere in the middle of the football season that nobody really knows what's going on.